Hi, I'm Sandy Sims with SDS Digital and the Accord Sequarallel, firmware version 1.4. In this tutorial video, we'll cover recording layers from a MIDI sequencer such as DAW software or MPC sequencers such as BeatStep Pro. I'll be using FL Studio to audition, then send the sequences to the Sequarallel. This can be done two ways: arming a layer to record during a running sequence or arming the layer, then starting the sequence. So let's set up the layer's record options by holding on the record selection. For this type of recording, as opposed to building layers by hand, the one-shot option should be turned on. This way the record will end once the set bar count is reached. The Sequarallel follows the MIDI clock, so with any source, the MIDI clock must be enabled. It's always a good idea to familiarize the Sequarallel with the record rate by arming the Sequarallel and playing a few beats. This way there won't be any jumps in the clock rate. I've made a few short loops to layer in, but these can be any length, as long as the layer bars are set to that size, or more. Recording will be predictable. This loop is only 1 bar long, but I'll be setting the layers for 2 bars, so it will play twice. To keep things simple on this first one, I'll just arm and then hit play. Don't forget to arm Sequarallel's play by pressing the P button. Now the Sequarallel is playing the loop, so off to the next loop. This method can be used to add notes to the next to be recorded loop while the Sequarallel is playing, as there could be a track, sequence, and effects to try against the new notes. It's all live. The bass line will also be 2 bars for this part of the example. I will intentionally start recording this loop in the wrong place. Recording always starts on a bar though, and the Sequarallel keeps track of this from the point playing started. As the bass line is a loop, we can't tell that it's misaligned yet. I'll add this high melody to another layer and also start it in the wrong place. The layer doesn't actually arm until you have exited from setting the bars. You can see it finished recording midway through the pattern. Now we're just using clock from FL Studio and the Sequarallel is playing all 3 parts. Here's where arm while playing can be a problem. Hitting play, you could hear the second and third recording didn't start right away. Maybe that's what you want, but if not, this next method is going to work perfectly. Delete the last 2 using the kill last function. This is what we just heard. But this is what we want. Arming, then hitting play in FL Studio. Recording starts immediately on the first note of the bass loop. And now for the high melody. Stopped. Arm layer record. Hit play in FL Studio. It's also nifty that notes can be added by hand while recording a layer, if, say, a keyboard is patched into the MIDI link input. The 4th layer is an ambient string-like synth, so let's add that while checking layer 2 and 3's alignment. Now we can hear they started properly. Because this layer is 4 bars long, the layer bar step sequencer will be up to 4 bars per step to accommodate it. This can be changed, of course, for step not using this layer. So there's 4 parts on layer QB1. Which translates to layer 1A, B, C, and D. For the drums, I'll mute this one and make a new layer QB. This isn't necessary, but later on it would be nice to apply perhaps song effects, retriggering, and control the levels without changing the other loops, not to mention using different percussion loops in the layer bar step sequencer. So recording the first drum loop. I could have armed to record the second loop while still running, but stopping then arming guarantees it'll be in the right place. There, in. The next percussion will demonstrate a new setting feature in Layer Record, Clock Start. Normally recording begins on the first note received. This is fine if the loop has a note at or near the beginning, or it's very short like this one. But if the delay before the first note is more than a bar, this can cause difficulties. You probably noticed the record didn't start until the cymbals played. This plays okay because it's a short loop, as you can hear. Let's delete it. Under the record button, setting the clock start option will begin recording with the first clock, regardless of any notes or MIDI CCs. By default, this of course aligns to a bar. Even though one shot wasn't on, it used layer 1's one shot. This has been resolved in version 1.4. So take note when the record begins now. Now we have some percussion loops. I want to discuss time quantization. With sequencer recordings, it's not required as there's no human factor, but it can still be useful for changing the way a rhythm sounds, as you probably already know. As I already know the minimum notes in the drum sequences are 1/16, I have set it to quantize at 1/16 to show there's really no difference. But changing to a coarser 1/12 will give a swing effect. 1/8 causes some notes to play together. And 1/4 will quantize everything to beats only. Let's try a real swing from the only song effects available here. Swing sounds much better with 1/8, as some of the 1/16 make it sound crowded in the short side of the swing. I'll change the layer 2 quantization back to 1/8 and you'll see what I mean. Less busy. Okay, I'll put everything back now we have heard some quantization. I've made a melodic loop that is purposely out, timing-wise, to demonstrate using quant to fix timing. You could hear it's not precise. So let's record that into layer 3. Don't forget to set the one-shot recording. Recording. There it is. Now apply some quantization to fix it. I have a Tix loop playing in FL Studio so we can hear that the notes are in fact mistimed. One 1/16 works nicely. Some notes are too far out for 1/32 to work. And 1/8 is just too coarse, so notes are joined. Now to finish up, let's do some arranging in the layer bar step sequencer. I'll unmute the layer quick box with the melodies and such. Rather than have all 4 layers playing off the start, I'll arrange them so they build in the first few bars. Each step can be any length, but I'll just leave them all at 4 bars. The first was at 4 bars because of the strings loop we recorded earlier, which was 4 bars, shown in the layer D column. If a step is made shorter, like to 2, then the same letter plays in the next step. It will be restarted. If it's not in the next step, then it will continue playing, which adds to the flexibility of this sequencer. I can't help but arpeggiate the VCOs even though they're kind of faintly mixed in with the MIDI. As mentioned in the CV mode arpeggiator video, the ARP notes can also be output on a selected MIDI channel, so things could get quite busy with that. I won't do it though here. Channel 3 has the strings, which are chords, so I'm putting those on CV Jack too. There. That sounds good. Latching will allow an ARP to continue after the chords are long gone, but one must be careful with this if using transpose, as the ARP will just continue from before the transposition. Channel 1's melodies from layer 1A and C will sometimes overlap, creating a chord, which the arpeggiator can use, without its latch being on. Single notes can cancel an ARP. While we're here, with drums playing, I'll just demonstrate the drums mode to jacks. I have VCOs on the jacks right now, so it'll probably sound weird. Selecting layers as the source. Like CV modes, drum mode has merge inputs options as well, so the hat tick still playing in FL Studio will show up here as note 42 on the grid. The trigger for that at jack row 3's CC3. Notice how layer 3's quantized loop fits right in? I don't think that was intentional. FL Studio is still clocking the Sequarallel, so I'll patch in a modular clock source which will overtake the MIDI clock. Quite a bit faster. Here's what a transpose during a latched arpeggiation does. Pretty gnarly, eh? I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on recording layers from other sequencers, and apologies for getting carried away with other features. It's hard not to do here. Thanks for watching. I'm Sandy Sims. Keep on patchin'!